good day, my friends. It's your old pal, Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said well. You know, I know how nosy sometimes people can be, or maybe just curious. And so I figured since we're in the Hollywood, Los Angeles area, why not show you guys my past apartments that you haven't seen? Now, I did make a vlog at one point called 17 Years Ago Today, and I showed pretty much all of my apartments up until the one that I was living in when I started vlogging. So we're gonna go to that apartment today where I started vlogging out of. I'm gonna tell you how I ended up there. And then the last apartment that I was in before I bought a house and moved. So Daze with Jordan the Lion and the Joster, revisiting our old stomping grounds, begins now. This is good old 101 traffic, 101 freeway, always traffic. But I lived off of Bronson Avenue, and so did Adam the Woo. When Adam the Woo moved to Hollywood, he lived off the same street as me, just a couple of blocks away. And this is exactly like one of the main reasons I moved. We've been on a 10-minute drive, and now I'm stuck in traffic from here till we get to my old apartment, which is still, it's saying 10 minutes away. Every single day it was like this. Every single day I went to vlog. Every single time, even if I was going 4 miles, it was between a half hour and an hour drive, stop and go like this the whole way. No matter what day, no matter what time. If I have to torture myself by coming and seeing these places, I figured so should he. He should have to see them too. This bridge over top of us is the one Kevin McCarthy screams while he's running over in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You're next! They're here! The old Rudolph Valentino estate that they demolished is right up here to the right. It was right over there, and they demolished it for this freeway. But my exit was the next exit. And I'm gonna show you the neighborhood surrounding it, because if it looks like what it looked like when I left, you'll see why I left. So they have cleaned it up. This entire sidewalk was homeless camps, both sides. I couldn't even, this is where I used to park, and I couldn't park anywhere because there were needles and syringes and tents, and there was just always garbage everywhere. And now they've somehow cleaned it all up. I can't believe it. What caused it was that they had a like a Red Cross thing over here that did free meals for homeless people 1 day a week, and then they started doing them every day, and the people just refused to leave the neighborhood and just started camping out here. And it was all over these streets. I can't believe that it's all clean now. I can't believe there aren't people on these sidewalks. So I lived on Tamarind, just off of Bronson. So this castle, you can see, this is the Scientology Celebrity Center, but early on in my vlogging days, I had vlogged it because it was an early actors motel. And the wife of Tom Ince opened this up, and this was like, Clark Gable lived here, Errol Flynn, George Burns and Gracie Allen lived here, Rock Hudson, just tons of Cary Grant, tons of people lived here when it was an old actors motel. So you have to go back and watch that one. And this is great. This mural was always here, but it was super faded out, and someone has added Fred Flintstone to it, of all things. And they revitalized and redid the mural. I'm amazed to see this. This was completely faded out, but I could never show it because I didn't want to divulge where I lived, which was that building right there. Right where the road bent, right here. I remember seeing a special like features thing on Quentin Tarantino's first movie, and Eddie Bunker was telling stories about when he lived here. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, I live there. The mural's amazing. They're calling it Hollywood Village, and they've got Fred Astaire and Ginger there, Bruce Lee, Danny Trejo right there. All kinds of stuff going along here. Harry Potter down here, Bambi. I wonder who did this mural. See, there's the Harry Potter, Clifford. All right, Ja, you're gonna be shocked. Look where we are. Do you know where you're at? I'm surprised you're happy. This was it. Affectionately known as, when I moved in, the Shangri Lodge. Not a place I sought out living in, but what happened was, if you watch my video called 17 years ago, when I show the last apartment, I lived in a really cool apartment with like 9 other apartments in it. All the people that lived there got along, but the owner sold the building, and the new owners wanted to, they just kept raising our rent because it wasn't rent controlled, because he wanted to get us to move out so he could destroy the place and build a new place. So he kept raising the rent. I moved out, everybody eventually moved out, and then they ended up leaving the place there and just renting it out again. But I had a friend that lived above me who was always moving, and so he was always on the lookout for cheap places. And so when I had to move, I said, hey Chris, what's on your list in Hollywood that's like cheap that you found? He goes, oh, 1811 baby. So he sent me over here and he said, ask for Elaine. When at the time I moved out of my last place, it was a single apartment, just a 1-room place, and I was paying $10.50. So he said, oh, go over there, it's $5.50 over there for a single. So I go over here, meet with the lady, and she goes, actually I do have one that just became available, and it'll be available at the beginning of the month. It was $700, so I moved in. I believe it was 2009 when I moved in, and I stayed there until like 2021. This is where I started the vlog. I actually remember moving in and telling my friend that helped me move in, I was like, dude, I think this is probably the place they're gonna find me dead someday. And I was only half joking about that. I thought I would probably never get out of this place. I thought I'd live here forever. But I met some really interesting people here. At one point, the guy that lived up in the top corner apartment up there, he managed actors and comedians, and we were out here talking one day, and he told me that he used to manage Eddie Griffin, and Eddie Griffin lived in this place. He said Tarantino used to live here. He said Juliette Lewis used to live here. Now the funny thing is, he told me that, and then about 3 years later, I'm out here walking Ja on the sidewalk in the grass, and Juliette Lewis parks her car right over here and comes walking across the street and ends up playing with Ja over here on the sidewalk because she's a member here. So yeah, it's very highly likely that she did live here. When I moved here, my plan was to be a musician, and then I made a lot of music and lost interest, and then got like kind of a regular night job, and then started acting basically off of what Shelley Winters told me I should do. And then I discovered, I started watching No Reservations with Anthony Bourdain, and I liked what he was doing and discovered YouTube and saw Adam the Woo vlogging, and I just decided I want to like travel around and do what this guy Adam's doing, like just make these short videos and just travel around and see all the things I ever wanted to see. So that dream started right here in apartment 211. Now while I lived here, this is also where I got Ja. They did not allow dogs, but every time I'd look out my window and see in other people's windows, you know, in the courtyard or anything, because there was a pool in the center of this place, I could see other people with cats. And the manager, she had 4 small dogs, like Ja's size, that were always following her around. So I went out one day and just decided to get Ja. I came and went and purchased Ja for 250 bucks, I think, or 275 bucks, and brought him home here. And when she saw him, she said, you can't keep him. And I said, oh yes I can. And she said, we don't allow dogs. I said, you have 4 dogs. She said, well, I have seizures, I'm allowed to have them. I said, I see you driving your car. How can you drive a car if you're having seizures? I go, I see other people with cats. I'm not getting rid of them. She said, well, if you can get a note from your doctor saying that you need him, then you can keep him. Well, I was not going to give him up no matter what, but my doctor did. I did go to my doctor and tell him that. He said, oh, no problem. No problem at all. And he filled out the paperwork for Ja to move in here with me. So we stayed here and we were traveling out of here. All of our overseas stuff was out of this place. I remember walking out that front door so many times and walking down this curve to catch the bus, or the, yeah, it was actually a bus down on Hollywood and Vine that would take me to the airport. And then when I came back, I'd walk in here and everything. And then COVID hit and all the restaurants, all the grocery stores were closed around here all the time. You couldn't do anything. And also simultaneously, my rent, I had been here over 10 years, but my rent was only at $1,000, believe it or not, from 700 to 1,000 in all that time. They were really cool about that. I give them a lot of credit. They didn't milk me when they really could have. And all those old palm trees you used to see starting the vlogs, those were these palm trees right here. I always started with pretty much these. So once COVID hit and all the people started moving out of LA, I was making, you know, better money than when I moved in here. So with the rent dropping all over the place, I decided to move to the valley. So I moved to Sherman Oaks. So let's go to Sherman Oaks. I'm not gonna show you where my apartment was here. Whoever lives here now, that's their business, and I'm just showing you the outside of the building, just like I would if I were vlogging anybody else. But I thought some people would probably love to know where the vlogs all started, and it was here. And you can imagine, once I started vlogging, how amazed I was to find out that my apartment, when I started vlogging Throw Mama from the Train, Billy Crystal's apartment was this one right here. I couldn't believe it. I was just beside myself. I was like, hey, I know where that is. I walk by that all the time. Do you miss this old place at all? Or do you like your new home? Huh, Ja? What do you think? Do you miss that place at all? Once we left, we never looked back. It was just a one-room little, you can probably tell from the videos, just a little box apartment. We didn't even have a parking space, no kitchen. We just had we had a sink, a bathroom, a half refrigerator, a microwave, and each other. And some crazy dude that used to wheel a shopping cart out to the pool and lift weights. That was pretty amazing. He invented his own workout with his own weight system and would strap them all on and then get into the hot tub and flail like a crazy fish. Wasn't known as Hollywood Village when I lived here, but it's nice to see they cleaned it up. Nice to see Garfield's watching over the place. I really am happy to see that it's cleaned up. When I left, and like pictures Scott Michaels would send me of this neighborhood, even up to like 6 months ago, it was just trashed. I couldn't believe it. And I want Hollywood to see its better days again, so it's great to see everything looking nice. Now, if you're wondering, do I miss it at all? Heck no. Onward and upward, I always say. I want to see so much in life. I was here 20 years. I was in Ohio for 20 years. Time to go somewhere else for a while. And no, I enjoyed my time here, but yeah, I look back fondly, and I'm happy where I'm going now. So when we moved to the valley, it was about a 15-minute drive away. So this turn that we're trying to make here is the same one that Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt, makes in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to get on the freeway. He whips the left. Not a fun drive either. This is also going this direction whenever I would come to Hollywood for anything and go back to my new place. There was a lot of sitting in traffic as well. This was my new street. Much quieter. Well, a lot tamer also. Okay, so I think I may have said that I lived in the last place till 2021. I think it was 2020. I moved out of there sometime in 2020 because I moved in here, the Brody Terrace. I went from a no bedroom for $1,000 a month at the end to a 2-bedroom for $2,500 a month. We did have parking spaces finally. That was nice, but the only problem with this place was that the people that owned it would not do anything. During COVID, we had coin-operated washing machines, and we appealed to them to get something we could pay online or, you know, something like that with an app because you couldn't get quarters. In Los Angeles, they would not give you any quarters, so we couldn't do laundry. You couldn't get them at the bank, you couldn't get them at the supermarket, anything. And anytime we ask about it, they would say, oh, it has to go to a board to be voted on, and they only meet a couple of times a year. And the other problem is we had one dumpster in here. You can actually, you can kind of see the cars in there. Where that car is parked, those are my spaces. It was a tandem spot, but we had one dumpster in here, and since everybody was home for COVID, it was filling up within days, and they refused to get anybody to ever come and empty it. So I was not enjoying that. So every time I was home here, I signed a year lease. Every time I was here, I would ask Eric Singer if he was around Vegas. He always was, because Kiss wasn't touring. And I'd say, can I get out of here and come hang out at your place? And he'd say yes. So I spent most of my time living here, traveling and getting out of here. And one of the other reasons that I couldn't wait to get out of here, I didn't even wait for my lease to end when I bought my house. I just kind of looked online in the state that I wanted to live in. The house had just been listed, and I made an offer and bought it. But one of the other reasons I had to get out of here and just couldn't wait out the lease is because, I'll show you, there's a courtyard in here as well. And a couple of the people that lived here had newborn babies, and they didn't work, of course. So the babies were crying all day, and they had dogs that were barking all day. So my apartment actually was, if you look through here, you can see there's a stairwell at the end. Well, before there's a little walk-in area, and there's a stairwell to the right, and my apartment was up there. So my apartment was actually this balcony right here. It was a nice place. It had like stone fireplaces and all that stuff. But like I said, it's pretty quiet here, but it echoes a lot during the day. And when there were people with newborn babies and they had their screen doors open, it was just so loud. I couldn't film anything here without hearing noise. So we up and moved away from Beverly. Parked a pod, one of those big pod boxes right there, and I got 2 people plus John Juan from my church to come help me load everything I owned into that pod. We shipped off the pod, and I took off to Vegas with Katie and hung out with my friends, and then came back, picked up Scott Michaels, and drove to my new home. I always find it interesting that it had the lion front. See what Jaw thinks of this, if he remembers this place. Does this look familiar? Do you remember this place? He must. He's walking right towards the steps. Do you remember this place? Did you like this place? Yep. He must remember. Does Jaw live here? Did Jaw used to live here? Okay, can we get your thoughts on this place? What'd you think of this place? Did you like living here? Not so much? You didn't care for it? Well, I tried. He's even making a friend out front for old time's sake. Hi! Hey! Originally, they had wanted $3,000 for the rent here, and because of COVID, they had dropped it down to $2,500, so that's why I moved in. But they gave me a lot of grief and a lot of trouble about moving in here because I got a 2-bedroom apartment. They're like, oh, you know, we don't really feel comfortable giving an apartment to just one person. We prefer if there are 2 people living there. And I was just living here with Jaw, so I said, well, I mean, they checked over my financial records and everything. I said, I make enough to qualify for this place. You've already told me that. So if you don't give it to me now, you're telling me that it's because, you know, that I don't have 2 people. I said, you can't do that. You can't use that as a reason. So it was nice to live here. I enjoyed living here and everything. I didn't really like the management company, but I did enjoy walking jaw around this neighborhood, and for a while it was pretty good. But then like 3 months into living here, we also had a homeless camp that developed like right around this little corner, because that's where the freeway barrier was, and I was seeing and hearing all kinds of things in our parking garage. It didn't happen to me, but several people had their parts stolen from their cars. So yeah, that was another sign. I'm like, okay, we have gated parking. People are still sneaking in and stealing parts off of cars. I think it's time to go. And I can actually show you, I didn't have one of these balconies, but those 2 middle windows are mine. Up on the 2nd floor. Actually, these 2. Those 2 windows are mine. This was my bedroom window. That was my quote-unquote guest room, but it really just had a bunch of my belongings in it. But that was Jordan and Jaw's bedroom right there. All right, my friends, I want to thank Pat Durbin for becoming my newest Patreon, helping to support this channel. And I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the end of our LA story. These 2 apartments were places that we edited, thought up, learned about the vlog topics. I mean, a lot happened in these places. So if you're ever curious, I hope you guys enjoyed these vlogs. I hope the stops that we made today satisfied your curiosity. Thank you all. We'll see you next time. Have a great night and goodbye.